All right, so I was just looking at this new motherboard. It's pretty interesting. This is a Gigabyte GA-Z170XP SLI. So it's got some interesting ports here on the back. This is USB-C, this little tiny thing right here. I thought they were bigger than that. HDMI, USB 3. The red one is USB 3.1. So the blue is USB 3, red is 3.1. I don't know if USB-C and USB 3.1 are going to work under the Hackintosh. We'll find that out. That should be interesting. These two up here are USB 2.0 because they don't have the blue or the red. That's a keyboard port, I'm guessing. DVI, VGA, and audio network. Documentation says that it can handle gigabyte speeds, so that's really cool too. I guess everything's gigabyte these days. These are the two SLI, I think. I think this is the times 16 and the times 8. It's got an M.2 port, which is for like super fast hard drives, like external hard drives or internal hard drives. I've never used that before. I don't know if it works with a Hackintosh or not, but that's pretty interesting. I'll probably play around with that a little bit in future videos. It's got SATA Express. Yeah, so overall, you know, this is supposed to be like a budget SLI board. It's not supposed to be like super high-end or flashy, but I think it looks good, and I think it's gonna do a great job. So we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. First step in installing any motherboard in a case is to install the backer plate. So just orient it, make sure that it's oriented in the right direction, and then it just pops in down here at the bottom. It takes a little bit of force. I always feel like I'm gonna break these things, but they just pop in. There we go. Then we should be able to slide this in. And you just wanna make sure that all of your connectors are going into the backing plate properly. I've installed these on previous boards, and I didn't get all my connectors lined up, and like one of the pins got bent backwards or something, and I couldn't use my USB port because of it. So you just want to make sure you get it all lined up. There's a pin, a center pin right there that holds the whole thing in place so that you can put your screws on. One thing that they mentioned about this board in the review that I watched is that it's not quite the standard ATX size. It's more like an MATX or something. So you'll notice the edge of it doesn't reach out to these pegs here. So anytime you install anything in this section, since it's overhung, you'll need to support the board as you're installing it. So that's a little frustrating, but that's how it is. All right, next step, let's get the CPU on there. It just pops off. Raises up, and then the CPU has a corner that's tagged with a triangle, and that triangle corresponds to this triangle right here. And I've had people tell me that you're not supposed to touch the back or the pins on the bottom. You also should technically be wearing a wrist strap, but I find that usually as long as you're touching the metal case while you do this, you're usually okay. So, and then this thing just slides down on there like that. Little thing goes under this screw here, and then you just crank down on the arm here until it's in place. It feels like you're gonna break it, but I guess you don't. And then just try not to touch that top until you get the CPU cooler installed. All right, so as many of you are probably aware, in my 6700k video, I had quite the PSU rant, and I was mostly wrong about everything that I said, so I'm just gonna shut up this time. I've been told that having the fan pointed down towards these filters down here is desirable, because then it'll draw air in through the filter and spit it out the back. So that's how I'm going to install it. This PSU comes with 4 machine screws for installing. I'm just installing those now. One of the screws is a little offset. It's not quite in a square position. Okay. All right, so this is the Corsair H115i water cooling system. You can see It's just like a radiator from a car. It's really interesting. And this is pre-charged with coolant. It's not user serviceable, so you don't have to, mess with the, getting the bubbles out of the coolant or anything like that. You never have to change it. It's all in there already out of the box. This is the end that goes into the CPU, and it's already got heat paste on it. Let's see, this is a 280 millimeter radiator, I believe. And this Corsair case, C70 Vengeance, has a spot at the top large enough to install it. As far as I know, not all cases do have the space for this, so it's a rather large cooler. I think 240 millimeter coolers are more common. We're going to install it at the top. I've got these filters on the bottom of this case that are washable. So I think what I'm going to do, there aren't any other filters as far as I can tell. There certainly aren't any at the top up here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to configure the radiator to blow, as an exhaust, so it'll blow out the top. That's not ideal because I'll be taking the heated air inside the case and blowing it through the radiator and using it for cooling, but I think it'll be adequate. From what I've heard, the difference in cooling is like 32C as an exhaust and 12C as an intake. What I'm trying to avoid there is I'm trying to avoid having to remove the cooler, the radiator, like once a month and like wash it out in the sink or something, right? So I'm hoping that if I use it as an exhaust, the air will already be scrubbed by these washable filters down here, and I can just wash out these washable filters. So we'll see. If it doesn't work, it's no big deal. I'll just flip the fans around and I'll use it as an intake, and maybe I'll buy some filters to put up there. So should be no big deal either way. All right, so what we're going to do is the first step in installing this thing is you've got to put this back plate on the other side of the motherboard. So I'm going to flip this case over. All right, and the C70 is a very nice case because it gives you access to the back of the CPU. So this is an LGA 1151 setup. So these little things either go out for the documentation says for an LGA 1366, the little pins go out, but for an LGA 1151, they go in. The 4790K that I did in December uses an LGA 1150. I've heard reports that this cooler doesn't work very well with a 1150. I might test that out myself because I really like this cooler and it'll fit in the other case just as well. But that's what I've been reading on Amazon. Sometimes the 1150 doesn't work. The 1151 seems to work fine for most people. So this goes right here. And then we're going to have to install standoffs from the other side. So we're going to have to screw the standoffs into the back plate. So I'm going to pop it up on its side, and we'll do that in a minute. All right, so in the interest of filming, I'm just going to kind of try to hold this in place with one hand while I put the screws in. So I've got the back plate on the back here. Normally, you would do this while the case was vertical and standing up. I'm just doing it this way because I'm filming. All right, so I'm pushing these little studs through very gently. Yeah, there we go. You can see here the difference in the threads. Some of them are thin on both ends, like this one on the left, and some of them are thin and fat. I'm not sure what I need here. Okay, so it says for LGA 1151 and 1366, you use the one that's thin on both ends. My bad. This one was fat on one end, so I'll just replace it. All right, step number 3 is to install the fans and radiator. It says they recommend mounting the fan as a air intake, but I'm going to do an exhaust. Here's what I'm noticing here. It looks like these grommets come pre-set up on this case for like a 240 millimeter. So what I've got to do is I've got to swap those around. So this grommet here actually goes over here. And this one here goes there. These two guys go on the outside here. This is super easy. Love this case. I'm a big Corsair fan, I think. I'm a little bit of a fanboy. I like all their stuff. It's kind of funny. All right. Okay, so with that remounted, now I should be able to install my screws. Pro tip, save you some time here. Before installing your radiator in your machine, you want to install the fans on the radiator, because when you've got the radiator mounted to the top of the chassis, this screw down here for the fan is kind of difficult to reach. Probably pretty impossible to get it installed. So here's how this works. The fans have a little arrow on them. So if you want to do exhaust, you know, the direction points this way, right? So that's going to be an exhaust fan. That's what I'm going to do. If you want to do intake, flip it around. Pretty simple, right? So I'm going to do exhaust. I'll just put this guy down on its back. Be careful not to poke anything through the radiator. You don't want to damage it. Same thing here. Arrow, exhaust. Okay, now you're ready to install your radiator in your chassis. I like to do one of the middle screws first. That way the load is balanced-ish. First screw is always the hardest one. I don't want to do them too tight, because if I do it too tight, I'm going to have a hard time moving it around to get the other screws in. If you're having trouble getting one of the screws in, just reach back and kind of pull a little bit on the fans. Usually you can get it seated. Make sure you got your washers, your metal washers on your screws. All right, and then to tighten, I'm just going to go in a zigzag pattern, and I'm just going to do hand tight. I'm not going to worry about making it real tight, because those grommets, you know, you can probably torque the hell out of those grommets if you want, but it's probably not necessary. All right, so you see what I mean about the filter? Can you imagine having to take all those screws off every month and clean it out? That'd be a pain in the ass, man. Not only that, I guess you'd have to rinse it right there next to the, I mean, you'd have to remove the CPU cooler too, the pump and everything. God, that'd be a pain in the ass. No way I want to do that. Okay, step number 4, install the pump unit. Align the bracket and pump over the standoff screws as shown. Tighten the thumb screws until the 4 corners are firmly secured. That looks really simple. Let's see if it is. I can't tell if it matters where the hoses are. I'm guessing it doesn't. Take our plastic off. Point of no return. Not really. These hoses are very, very large, so I'm not super thrilled about that. I feel like I'm going to break them. Looks like the studs go toward the middle there. And they've got these thumb screws. I'm going to tighten these in a cross pattern as well. Connect power to the fans and pumps, step number 5. Connect the pump power cable to the CPU fan header on your motherboard. Connect the fans to the 2 connectors coming off the pump. All right, so I think the CPU fan cable is this one. There's only one lead. It's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to remember to put this in the section where I'm installing the CPU cooler. Apparently, these fan cables here do not go into the motherboard. They go into this thing right here. I've been trying to figure out what this cable was. This also attaches to the cooler. Been trying to figure out what it was for so long, and I finally figured it out. That's the fan control. So these 2 fans are supposed to be plugged into the water block, not plugged into the motherboard directly. So what happens is the CPU temperature fan here will change the speed of these fans. So that's why it has to be plugged in like that. So I almost caused a big problem for myself by not doing that properly, but now I got it fixed. Okay, step number 6, connect pump to USB header. Using the included Corsair Link USB cable, attach pump unit to a motherboard USB header. This is the Corsair Link cable. Okay, so this goes in here like so. And then it just plugs into the USB cable down here. So I think we need to also attach this SATA power connector here. So peripheral and ATA. And I'll probably route that through the back of the case. And then that just attaches to that, like so. So definitely have to make sure you connect this, otherwise your cooler isn't going to work at all. But I'm not going to mess with that just yet. All right, I actually think now would be a good time to start wiring up all of the case cables to the motherboard. So let's go ahead and do that. So this USB cable needs to come over here. So I'm going to flip this over. Put that through right there. Now, this is the part of the board where you got to be careful because it's unsupported on the bottom. So as I push this in, I'm just going to put my hand right there because I don't want to crack or damage anything. All right, there we go. Front USB connected. This is HD audio. And lights and stuff. HD hard drive LED goes right there. And you need the positive to be correct, so there's an arrow right there that signifies positive, and on the motherboard there's a positive and negative, so you just have to make sure that you get the polarity correct. For switches you don't need to worry about it, but for LEDs it's important. Power LED, positive and negative, so that's going to be like so. Power switch, so this one the polarity doesn't matter. Right there. Reset switch. Right there. I think that's it for the case connectors. Okay. I'm not going to attach these right now because I suspect one or both of these blocks is going to go away entirely when I put my 980 Ti cards in there. This sys fan can be installed though. Let's go ahead and install that one. There we go. There's actually a filter on the side of the case here. This front comes open like so. Let me see if I can remove it on this side too. It's definitely harder to get to than the filter on the bottom because you got to remove both the front and the back plates. But there it is. There's a washable filter right there. Yeah, there we go. So I think I might make those intakes. All right, so let's remove these fans. All right, so this thing comes just absolutely slathered in plastic. Let's get this stuff off of here. I think it's kind of amusing how much attention people pay to looks on the inside of a computer. I think of them as being very utilitarian. Remove my blanks over here. Got to remove this other blank too. Let's install our Wi-Fi card. Okay. I'm just taking off this middle tray here. There's a screw that holds it on. There's a thumb screw that holds it on the back. Remove that. So let's flip these fans around. Seems like you have to take both of these off in order for the mounting holes to match up. In which case, I'm not going to have anywhere to put my hard drive. Screws are not long enough when used with the washers. Let's use them without the washers because I don't think they're necessary. I'm gonna try a couple of different configurations. So let me remove this piece and we'll see. Okay, time to install the second GTX 980 Ti. Thumb screws again. It's 1, 2. Okay, let's do this. Ah, the lock was engaged. Make sure you remove your lock first. Ah, it just goes right in. Okay. Yeah, so if you're having trouble installing the second card, make sure you disengage the lock first. Getting that second card out is going to be pretty hard if I ever need to remove it. Oh no! Crap! There we go. All right. There's my beautiful 32 gigabytes of DDR4. That is a beautiful sight. Wow, that's nice. All right, pop back all of these doohickeys there. See which way the key faces. Looks like the key faces this way. And again, I'm just supporting the edge of the board so that I don't crack or break anything. All right, let's do some power wiring. Get this dude out of the way for a minute. All right, so for this cable, this end goes right here. This is the main motherboard power supply. So I'm going to go ahead and feed that in right there. Again, supporting the motherboard from behind. And then I've already got the back panel off, so I'm just going to feed it through right here. Try not to drop my radiator, cause it any damage. Feed it through right here. Draw it down. And we'll just stand this dude up. There we go. And feed this cable down. So open up that dude. Close that dude. Open up this one. Close that one. And feed it through right here. And let's see, while we're in the back here, let's go ahead and do the CPU also. So the CPU gets fed through here and it attaches right there. That wasn't so bad. And feed this through right here. Okay. And I usually run it just directly like so. Okay, now we can, all right, so I think I only need one PCIe type power cable per NVIDIA card. I think that's right. So I'm gonna feed this one through right here. That's gonna attach to the NVIDIA card on the other side. So this just needs to come out right here too. There's a whole rat's nest coming out down there. And then my other PCIe cable will go through the same place to the other card. And then we'll draw that through here to the power supply there also. Hey, I finally got that screw to go in. Jeez, what a pain. So I think I have both of the front radiators mounted now. Man, that took a long time. Dude. I've got this rear case fan set to blow out the back of the case. So air is going to come in through these radiators for the GTX. It's going to blow over the ballistics RAM. Some of it's going to go up that way and some of it's going to come out this way. Most of it's going to go up that way. Okay. Then I'll reattach this to the motherboard. So this is the sys fan. All right, excellent. That looks pretty good. So now I just have to attach my hard drive with double stick tape to the rear. All right, so I went ahead and got the Windows 10 drive out of my other machine, and this is the Mac OS X drive that I just bought. So this one hasn't been formatted yet. I just thought I'd label them so that I can keep them, you know, separate because they're both exactly the same drive, so should make troubleshooting a little bit easier in the future. What I was thinking was, just right about there, I got some of this industrial strength Velcro. This is really all I've got. Just cut off a little square. Square of that. Peel off the back. Bada bing. Peel off the back. That's going to be a problem. So can't use those L-shape connectors. I've got at least one of these straight ones, so let me try using that instead. Feed that dude through. And then this might be a little bit of a problem. Okay. This is kind of a mess. I will be the first to admit it. Let's see if I can clean it up a little bit. So, all right, so I found another slimline SATA connector. I managed to get the case cover back on. I've got my two drives right there with Velcro, and I ran another single SATA cable to this drive. So they don't seem like they're on there very securely, but I mean, it's gonna be fine. Like, this thing's not even gonna move, right? So that'll be great. When I put the case cover back on, if you can get it seated, there we go. When I look down in there, just the wires are touching the case side. The drives are not getting squished or anything. So it looks great to me. So let's put the front cover back on. All right, let's see what happens. Power PSU's on. Front fan's on. That dude's blowing. These dudes are blowing. These dudes are blowing. Cool. Oh, and it magically turned off. Oh, that's not good. All right, I've never tried this before, but this is my handy dandy little FPV battery powered monitor. So let's turn that dude on, hit the power button again. We'll see if it's giving us an error. Hey, hey, Windows is booting. That worked. It's working. Yeah, so, okay. So don't use the SATA Express connector for regular SATA. That's a bad idea. Huh. That is interesting. Getting devices ready, 12%. Hey, we got a login screen. Whoa. Sweet. I'm in. I got Windows. There you go. It's trying to load up the VR stuff. So anyway, I guess I didn't have to really do anything for the Windows setup. Maybe there won't be a dual boot migration video after all. That was pretty simple. So I'm gonna go play with this thing with some VR, and I I guess the next video is going to be the Hackintosh setup. So, this is Jesse with Create This. I hope you found this video interesting or useful. If you did, go ahead and hit the like button down below, because this was awesome. If you hated it, hey, hit the dislike button, I don't care. You know, yell at me in the comments. If you have any questions about what I did here, please feel free to ask me down in the comments down below. I will include links to every single one of these products in the description, also down below the video. You click the little show more button and then there's a bunch of Amazon affiliate links there. I get a tiny commission when you click on those links, and it just helps me support the channel. It doesn't affect your cost at all. You still get the same price either way, so there's really no reason not to click the links. As always, thanks for watching and please subscribe.